Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, Australia's 2 biggest cities are now in lockdown. Tasmanians have spent the past 24 hours scrambling to get home from Victoria as cases rise and borders around the country slam shut.
Melbourne officially in lockdown 5.0, leaving Tasmanians desperately scrambling to get home.
It was frustrating that the lockdown was called so quickly. We jumped straight on, could not get a flight last night, so now we've got to go on a 2-week quarantine.
We turned around and booked this flight back straight away.
We were supposed to come in tonight, we came in this morning, but we tried to get in last night to beat it, but we couldn't.
Anyone entering the state from Melbourne has to quarantine, and now from midnight it will be mandatory for those who have been in Victoria since July 8 to wear masks in public.
Wear a mask and, if you can, limit your exposure to large crowds or other sensitive locations.
That order will remain in place until at least next Tuesday, with around 15,000 people included.
There are people within our community that have been contacts of cases, and there may be a case in the community that we are yet to identify.
24 people in Victoria have now been infected with the Delta strain, 10 new cases today. There are more than 120 exposure sites across Melbourne, and the MCG remains one of the biggest concerns. 4 strangers who weren't sitting next to each other at Saturday's Carlton-Geelong game now have the virus.
We had to make that tough call. We have been here before, we have done this before, and we've done it with Delta.
Cases in Sydney remaining high, with 97 new infections today.
29 of those, we understand, were infectious for all of the time that they were infectious in the community. And this is the number that is concerning. That number of people being infectious in the community keeps going up.
While Queensland has recorded 1 new community case, that state now also slamming its border shut to Victoria from 1 a.m.
The clear message to Queenslanders is definitely do not go to New South Wales and do not go to Victoria during this period of time.
But with Australia's 2 largest cities now in lockdown, the entire country will remain on high alert.
We are going through one of the largest eras or periods of threat from COVID because of ongoing infections and outbreaks on the mainland.
Next site, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government is refusing to rule out, reopening 4-wheel drive tracks in the Tarkine. A cultural assessment has found off-road use would cause damage to Aboriginal heritage values.
In 2012, the tracks in the Arthur Pyman Conservation Area became the centre of loud, angry rallies, with thousands protesting against the Labor government's decision to close them. In 2014, the Liberal government promised to reopen them if elected. Fast forward 7 years, it could break that promise.
There is no final decision at the moment. How we're working with the community to make sure that we get the right outcome.
It's terrible that we don't have a clear statement from the government that they will no longer allow or enable or turn a blind eye to 4-wheel driving in the Western Tasmanian Aboriginal landscape.
A cultural assessment report has found reopening these tracks could be detrimental to Aboriginal heritage values. Taking no action is likely to be the simplest and most cost-effective means of affording physical protection to Aboriginal heritage sites. The report also found that the proposed activity has not involved engagement with the Tasmanian Aboriginal community, and the significance of any impacts can only be determined through a process of meaningful and empowered engagement.
Those sites will never be replaced. They are irreplaceable. This report, I think, puts an end to any hope of these tracks being open for no purpose.
We want to get an outcome that ensures that we can protect our cultural and natural heritage, but also protects the Tasmanian way of life.
A decision is expected to be made by the state government in coming weeks. Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmanian News.
The union representing correctional officers is calling on the state government to recruit more staff at Risdon Prison following an assault which left 4 workers in hospital earlier this week. The United Workers Union says constant lockdowns at the facility caused the prisoners to lash out at staff.
At the moment we're looking at around 20 to 30 staff across the TPS short per day, and that creates the lockdowns. Currently today there is lockdowns throughout the Tasmanian Prison Service statewide.
In a statement, the government says 2 new recruitment campaigns are planned this year. The Huon Valley Midwinter Fest has kicked off for another year in what's shaping up to be a weekend full of fun and fire. While the event will be on a smaller scale due to COVID restrictions, organisers are promising a festival like no other.
Stoking up the fire ahead of another cracking Midwinter Festival, organisers are pulling out all the stops to showcase the best of the Huon Valley.
We've got food being prepped, we've got cider being rolled in, everyone's very excited and we are on track to deliver the Midwinter Festival.
The event normally attracts thousands of interstate revellers, but under COVID restrictions, tickets are limited to just 600 and they're in hot demand.
This year when we put our ballot system out, we had over 7,500 people put their name in the ring. We allocated the 600 tickets and we've got almost 90% of people from Tasmania.
This year the menus are curated by the Willie Smith team and chefs say you wouldn't be in the Huon Valley without apples on offer.
Toffee apples, definitely want to make sure that the kids are being well looked after as well, so little packs of marshmallows for them to roast over the fire, crepes, so we've got some nice sweet and savoury options.
While this year's festival will be on a much smaller scale, those wanting to take part at home can watch a live stream of the main events. Some of the highlights including the Burning Man and live performances.
It's going to be everything that you ever dreamed about, everything you've ever experienced in the Midwinter Festival, just on a little stage back at our spiritual home, the Apple Shed here in the Huon Valley.
The festival wraps up at 11 o'clock tomorrow night. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmanian News.
The Aboriginal flag will fly high above 2 Launceston buildings after a unanimous decision by the City Council. Advocates have praised the historic move while calling on other Tasmanian councils to follow suit.
A new day, a new era for Launceston. Alongside the Australian and council flags, the colours of a culture older than both of them will soon fly high.
Seen as a very positive action and supportive of the Aboriginal community.
The council unanimously voting to permanently raise the Aboriginal flag at the Town and Albert Halls, a symbolic gesture but currently with nothing to show for it. Both locations are heritage listed, meaning the council will need to submit a development application just to construct the new flagpoles.
That'll take some weeks to months to work through, and that'll depend on whether we get objections as well.
The Mayor defending questions on why it's taken until 2021 to reach this important moment, and also the bureaucratic red tape involved in making what some suggest is a simple decision.
Did seem like quite a long process.
So it has taken longer, but I think it's a good process to have when it's ratepayers' monies that we're talking about.
Yesterday I apologised that it had taken us so long.
Aboriginal leaders believe the move will spark new community debate.
It's a catalyst for conversations, education, truth-telling.
Challenging the local government association to go one step further and make flying the Indigenous flag mandatory outside all Tasmanian councils.
It's really a no-brainer flying the Aboriginal flag as the traditional owners of this country.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmanian News.
The winner of Tasmania's most prestigious design award has been crowned. Ashley Eric-Smolin has taken home the Clarence Prize for Excellence in Furniture Design with this piece incorporating salvaged parts of different chairs.
I'm really taking a critical stance on waste and consumer culture and how that links back to deforestation and habitat loss.
We had 61 entries altogether from all over Australia, and 15 of those were selected by the judges to be on the shortlist, and of course we had one winner.
The $20,000 prize is one of the highest in the country for furniture design. He's described as being the next Daniel Gill, lightning quick on his feet with enormous natural talent. But 17-year-old boxer Ali Gohari's road to the ring stretches back to the war-torn Middle East.
Ali Gohari's motto is train hard, fight easy, but the teenager's biggest battles have already been won. He managed to flee ravaged and dangerous war zones of the Middle East, his lucky break with an Australian visa potentially life-saving.
When I grew up there, it was terrible in Iran, and thanks for Australia that
us to live here, and we are so happy to be here.
Humble yet fearless, Ali finds another form of freedom in the boxing ring. His competitive streak matched by a natural flair and a will to improve every time he straps on the gloves.
I don't see the bag as a bag. I see it as my opponent, how I'm gonna work with it. I'm really happy that Ali is into something, doing a sport, especially boxing, and I'll support him every day as long as I can.
The biggest praise coming from coach Graham George, who rates Ali as highly as his other protege, Daniel Gill.
In my opinion, he's got the ability to achieve whatever Daniel achieved, if not more.
A future ambassador for the sport in the making.
His work rate is really tremendous, and his willingness to learn, willingness to listen, that sort of sets him aside from a lot of boxers.
Like Gill, Ali wants to become an Olympian, representing his adopted country.
Practice every day, train hard, and hopefully one day get there.
And with speed like this, it's well within reach. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmanian News.
Launceston's iconic Carols by Candlelight could be cancelled for a second straight year after the Tamer Sunrise Rotary Club withdrew its support for the large-scale event. The volunteer organisation claims growing uncertainty of COVID restrictions posed a big financial threat.
It's just very risky. It costs in the vicinity of $55,000 to $60,000 to stage the event without COVID compliance.
They're hoping another organisation will take the reins of the Carols, which usually draws a crowd of thousands every year. As we reach the halfway point of Dry July, Tasmanian Distillery has today launched its first alcohol-free gin range. Hellfire Bluffs in Spirit aims to capture a rapidly growing market, with hopes the product will also boost the state's tourism industry.
Cheersing the latest revolution in gin. Hobart's Botanical Gardens providing the scene for a historic launch. It looks, smells and tastes like a traditional drop, but Hellfire's latest range is anything but.
Whether you're choosing to not have a drink, for whatever reason that be, that you could come and visit our cellar door, our market, us at a bar, that Hellfire will always include you.
Really about that inclusion and sort of getting everyone to enjoy Hellfires.
In Spirit is Tasmania's first zero alcohol product line. A pregnant friend at Ruby's wedding providing the inspiration.
She couldn't have a drink, so I came home and I said, let's just create something based on alcohol but not alcoholic.
Ready for distribution, it's also an important business move as more Australians turn towards non-alcoholic experiences.
It means that we can go to places that don't have liquor licences as well, so there's a huge opportunity for us to sell more.
The flavour features local sweet fruits, mixed with the warmth of Szechuan peppers. Flavour experts helping deliver the final taste.
Very few of them deliver that same experience, so it's critical for us to get that flavour profile so that it drank like a gin and tonic.
You don't have the ethanol present there, so you need to you're just distilling water with all your botanicals on, so you need to be a little bit cleaner.
Also providing a tonic for growing local tourism.
At least one person in the car needs to stay off the alcohol when they're on the roads, so this gives them an option.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmanian News.
On a similar theme, Tasmanian distillers say the local whisky industry has exploded in recent times. Local producers came together today to launch the program for Whisky Week. There will be a range of events including a masterclass, trivia and speed dating with distillers. The state now boasts around 60 distilleries, up from around 20 5 years ago.
Started off with what my dad did back in 1992 and it's grown from there. It's, we all come together to create handcrafted small batch products that are all made with care and dedication.
Whisky Week kicks off around the state from August 9.
To the State League, Braden Webb and Chris Howard will return for the Pies against Lauderdale. The Southern Bombers have recouped after Ryan Wiggins' accident and had a local chaplain speak to the players this week.
He was brilliant. Just the way he communicated with the boys and the language he used, he opened up some space for us to have some conversations, and to the credit of the boys, they actually spoke up, which I wasn't sure whether they were going to do given how emotional they'd been.
Chris Howard's a hell of a player. Like once he gets a good run at it, he's going to be a really good state league footballer. And he's basically missed the last 2 years of footy.
While Launceston heads south to face the Tigers, a team Mitch Thorpe has long rated as one of the competition's quiet achievers. The league's leading goal scorer Dylan Riley is out for the season with a ruptured ACL.
He hasn't had a lot of injuries, so at this point it's probably his first long-term injury, and he's really been mature in his headspace around it.
I think we've started to bridge that gap between potential and performance.
The Tigers have named an unchanged side. Thorpe returns for the Blues. In the NPL, Clarence could rise as high as 5th on the table if it beats Olympia in the Eastern Shore Derby this weekend. The Zebras have won just 3 from 12 this season. However, winger James Ackerley says the results don't reflect the performances.
We're a pretty young squad, so a heap of room for improvement, but we're looking pretty good for the years to come.
In the Women's Super League, Olympia needs to beat ladder leader and fierce rival Clarence to keep its title chances alive.
In this case, it's pretty much going to be like a final this match, because I think it'll definitely be quite deciding in the Super League competition this year.
The match will kick off at Wentworth Park on Sunday afternoon at 2:15. And if you're eating your dinner right now, you might just want to take a spell. With Clarence playing North Launceston at York Park in the TSL tomorrow, tonight's flashback is to an infamous incident between the two sides at the ground. In the year 2000, Clarence caused a major stir after winning the statewide premiership, hiring a helicopter to fly back to York Park so they could leave their mark.
Mowbray cricket legend Ricky Ponting and Melbourne Demon Brad Green were among 6,000 witnessing North Launceston play Clarence at York Park, a contest the visiting Roos would win by 49 points.
Long kick, and that's it, the siren.
But there would be an execrable encore. Clarence players and the coach paid $3,000 to hire a helicopter 2 days later, returning to rub salt and something else into the wound.
Upon exiting the helicopter, the players formed a circle and proceeded to urinate on York Park.
The repugnant ritual was apparently a premiership tradition.
Come back to where all began. York Park.
It might have been relieving, but condemnation was swift. Clarence immediately distanced itself from the gross gesture.
This is just unacceptable behaviour. It's something that shouldn't have happened. It did happen. We now have to deal with it.
Also unhappy, Tasmania Police. The chartered chopper was the same one used for police rescue work and bore the Force's logo. But there was one voice of support, and it came from the Northern Bombers.
Things happened and there was no damage, no one was hurt. The ground was already very wet, I have to say, and I don't think they should be castigated too hard.
But the territory was marked. In fact, it would be the last mark of statewide football, the competition collapsing until the TSL's introduction in 2009.
Yeah, the ground was wet anyway, King. It was no dramas, was it?
That north-south divide, huh? Thanks very much, Tom.
Good evening. Hobart a top of 12 degrees today, Launceston and Devonport 13 and Burnie 14. 16 at Friendly Beach is the state's high, with close to average temperatures today apart from the upper Derwent Valley. Flinders Island 15, St Helens 14, Strawn and King Island 13, Grove 11 and Bushy Park 9, Lyre 6 degrees, and in the 24 hours to 9 a.m 60 millimetres of rain fell at Quamby Bluff, while today the best fall 13 millimetres at Nunamara. That's all coming from the heavy cloud over the state today. Not many showers over the southeast though. Now that middle level cloud also extends over the southeast part of the continent. Cold unstable air is over the bight with some convective cloud over northern Queensland. Tomorrow we see the low move to our southeast with a ridge of high pressure over central Australia. Now this will encourage a west to southwesterly airstream to develop over Tasmania and up to 20 to 30 knots over most coastal waters, winds at 5 to 10 knots over the lakes. Strong wind warning, that's from Southeast Cape to St Helens Point. We also have a minor flood warning for the North Esk, Meander and Macquarie Rivers. Looking forward to a lot of water coming down those catchments. Forecast for tomorrow, morning fog for Hobart 14 degrees, just 10 for Medina with a shower, partly cloudy for Oatlands 11 the top. Launceston, a high of 14 degrees. 14 also for Devonport with a shower or two, an early frost for Lyre and a high of 7. Burnie, a shower or two and 14, 13 the top for Strawn, a showery day, same for Marrawar, while in the east tomorrow, St Helens a top of 15 and partly cloudy, Swansea 14, 13 the high for Orford. Now on to Sunday, showers over the west and northwest, otherwise fine and partly cloudy. And on Monday, a few showers extending over northern parts. Tuesday, showers extending throughout with snow down to 500 metres. A shower or two in Perth and Adelaide tomorrow, just 13 with some wet weather in Melbourne. A cold day forecast for Canberra. Windy conditions in Sydney, sunny but windy also in Brisbane. Bit of cloud over Hobart at 7, 9 right now in Launceston, 10 degrees in Devonport. The Huon Valley Midwinter Festival kicks off tomorrow, Kim, and a few showers, but shouldn't dampen the enthusiasm. There's going to be the Barefoot Nellies and also the Dead Maggies. I'm looking forward to the costume, the best dressed costume. You have to dress like a pagan. That'd be easy for you, wouldn't it?
You're so mean, and it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Good night, Murph. Have a great weekend.